Hello and welcome. You're watching the Buck Stops Here Weekend Edition. I'm Ankita Mukherjee. B2B has been given a new meaning by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Bharat to Bhutan. That's how he described India's relationship with that country, his first foreign destination as Prime Minister. A red carpet welcome was laid out at Paro and Thimphu, and Prime Minister Modi met the King of Bhutan as well as Prime Minister Tshering Tobgay. Officially, the focus of both meetings was economic cooperation. But with recent intelligence reports of incursions by China's PLA and China's efforts to open diplomatic ties with the Himalayan state, we ask tonight, is the Prime Minister's visit to Bhutan largely aimed at countering China and reasserting India's regional sway?
First, a red carpet welcome at Paro, where the wind briefly whipped away the ceremonial scarf that Bhutan's Prime Minister offered to Narendra Modi. And then, at the Tashi Chezong, or the Royal Palace, a ceremonial guard of honor whose grandeur has to be seen to be believed. This is where 5 years ago, I remember I had come for the coronation of the new king. Today, it is the site of honoring the Indian Prime Minister who has chosen Bhutan as his first foreign destination after becoming the head of state of India. What are Bhutan's expectations from Modi's visit? A boost to the economy. That's what most Bhutanese say. India has promised Bhutan 4,500 crore rupees for its 11th five-year plan that began last year. Bhutan hopes Modi will deliver on time.
Narendra Modi is known as someone who implements what he says, who actually walks the talk. So that way, the visit comes at a very important time. Our government is a new government, 9 months into ruling, and then we have this big 11th five-year plan, which needs a lot of money. Although the fund is already committed.
That's right, 4,500 crore, I believe, has been committed last year.
Yes, the commitment has been made. It takes time for the actual cash to flow in.
And finally, the question, why did Modi choose Bhutan as his first foreign stop? Modi has said his foreign policy focus would be SAARC countries. But could Prime Ministers Modi and Tshering Tobgay have ignored China? Officially, no word on it, but analysts believe it is the moot issue between the two countries.
भूटान और इंडिया के संबंध बहुत करीब है, 50-60 साल हो चुके हैं और इंडिया को कोई चिंता का विषय नहीं रखना चाहिए जैसे चाइना और भूटान के बीच में कुछ हुए।
Prime Minister Modi addresses Bhutan's parliament tomorrow. His speech will be closely watched by a people who have great expectations of India. In Thimphu with Nirmal Sarkar, Monideepa Banerjee, NDTV.
Well, joining us on our discussion tonight, two distinguished former diplomats, former Pavan Verma, former Indian ambassador to Bhutan, currently cultural advisor to Bihar Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. Also joining us this evening, KC Singh, former Secretary, Ministry of External Affairs, Tenzing Lamsang, Editor-in-Chief of the Bhutanese, joining us tonight from Thimphu, and Sambit Patra, BJP spokesperson, here with me in the studio tonight. But Pavan Verma, let me begin with you. Surely we have to see the timing of Prime Minister Modi's visit to Bhutan less than a month into his tenure as particularly significant.
Well, you know, Mr. Modi has shown a certain activism in foreign policy, starting from his swearing-in ceremony and then the initiatives towards China, towards America, and certainly with the neighboring countries. I think it's a wise decision to begin with the neighbors. And among the neighbors, Bhutan is our closest friend. Its friendship has stood the test of time, and it has a great strategic importance. And I think what Bhutan is looking with the new government is an emphasis on continuity. It's important to take new initiatives in foreign policy, but it's equally important with sensitive neighbors to establish continuity, because there is a certain momentum in India-Bhutan relations, and there is a sensitivity required in dealing with a smaller neighbor. We may be giving to Bhutan a certain amount of structural largesse as part of its developmental plans, but our approach really should be to say that we are privileged to be Bhutan's principal development partner, because it's a two-way street. Bhutan's strategic location provides us the strategic depth that we need vis-a-vis China. China and India are both neighbors of Bhutan, and I think therefore it's a wise choice for him to go to Bhutan as his first foreign visit.
KC Singh, do you see this as a safe move given India's friendly relations with Bhutan over the years, or is there a far more strategic component to all of this?
Well, a few points. I agree with Pavan. It's an extremely important neighbor with whom we've had very close relations, perhaps the closest out of all the neighbors. But there are plates that are shifting. 2007, when the Prime Minister went there, we revised a 1949 agreement with them, giving them much greater leeway in terms of their foreign affairs. Till then, we had been guiding them in their foreign external relations. Secondly, Bhutan has moved towards more representative government. And third is that out of these SAARC leaders present in Delhi for Mr. Modi's swearing in, only the Prime Minister came because His Majesty the King didn't travel. And this will enable the Prime Minister not only meet the King, but the King's father, who I believe continues to play a very important symbolic or guiding role in Bhutanese politics. So this was a trip where Prime Minister will be able to acquaint himself with the real decision makers, with the people who are the guiding spirit behind that country. But more than that, I think it's an important point, because we have been hearing rumors that perhaps Chinese were going to open their mission in Thimphu. Well, we can't stop them from opening their mission, because Bhutan over the last 3 or 4 decades has slowly grown its contacts with the outside world. Initially, they used to have only a couple of missions abroad, but we can't certainly expect that they would, as an independent country, just continue in a static state of just having that diplomatic relationship and no more. And the second one is that we are really having a very, very important relationship, the energy-based relationship. We have 3 projects that we have financed, hydroelectric projects, which give us about 1,400 odd megawatts, and 3 more are under construction. And the total possibility of generating power there is about 10,000 megawatts. And this is clean energy, renewable clean energy, which can change the way we look at Northeast. And you can see the emphasis on Northeast in Mr. Modi's way of approaching internal and external relations. He has put former General V.K. Singh in charge of Northeast.
Right.
He is looking at Northeast as a stepping stone to dealing with the neighbors, dealing with ASEAN and so on and so forth. So I think Bhutan becomes a very important visit, symbolic visit, to convey this impression that you are investing in this.
Okay. Samit Patra, come in on this, because are we really looking at, in a sense, India's reassertion of its regional sway, whether it's been inviting all SAARC leaders to his inauguration, whether it was, talking China, but going to Bhutan. Also the significance of the Northeast. And does the fact that there have been reports of Chinese incursions in Bhutan, particularly in areas which are strategic, the Siliguri corridor in a sense, which is very important, India's only link in a sense to the Northeast, where does all of this leave this visit? And should we see it as more of a strategic choice than a safe one?
No, I believe the prudence that Mr. Narendra Modi has really shown in picking up Bhutan as the first destination is commendable. In the sense that, look, as most of the previous speakers have also pointed out to the fact
Why
that...
do you see it as prudence?
No, prudence in the sense, look, we have established that the southeast region of Asia and the relationship that we share with each other is of paramount importance, and that's the reason as to why, with great deal of prudence, the invitations were sent out to all the 7 nations for the swearing-in ceremony, and the first destination was not a West nation, it was a nation with whom we share almost a 700 kilometers border. It's a very important destination in the sense that, as my previous speaker was rightly pointing out, 2014, 2008...
Does Bhutan also not share a 450 kilometer border with China, which brings us back to the central point of our discussion.
See, every foreign destination of a prime minister probably may have a covert operation. I'm not supposed to be knowing all the operations. If at all anyone else knows it, they may say about this. But I believe the most important issues on the charts, first and foremost, would be hydroelectric power, as was pointed out rightly, 10,000 megawatts by 2013-18. Secondly, as your reporter was rightly saying, and we have promised 4,500 crores for the 11th year plan of Bhutan. So the delivery of 900 crores every year is a big target, and I believe the leaders of both the country need to sit down and talk on this. And as far as China is concerned, let me just point out to the fact that if at all that was a concern, that Mr. Modi would have really picked up Tokyo as the first destination.
Right.
Why then here?
Okay, but Pawan Verma, you had a point to make very quickly, and then we can in fact dip into Narendra Modi speaking in.
No,
Thimphu. Yes, go ahead.
No, let me say that it's not either or. It's not China or Bhutan. I mean, there are two different things. I'm sure that our relations with China will remain a primary focus. But within the neighborhood, if you had to make a choice, I think Bhutan is a good country to begin with, whereas I said continuity, because Bhutan is concerned that the developmental plans which have been built together, that there will be delivery on them. And with a new government, it was important to convey that assurance. Hydroelectric power has been mentioned. Let me say to you, Ankita, it may be a small country, but this is an arena of entirely mutually beneficial cooperation. Bhutan has the resources, the mountainous rivers. India needs the energy. Both countries are jointly collaborating in building up to 10 mega hydropower plants with a targeted generation of 10,000 megawatts by 2020. Bhutan needs the revenue,
right.
India needs the energy. So it's a mutually beneficial area of cooperation and not the only one.
But
as I said, primarily over and above all this, Bhutan is a very strategically located neighbor and needs to be seen, our relations need to be seen from that perspective.
Very strategically located neighbor, perhaps even more strategic, KC Singh, given that China has perhaps overtaken India as the biggest investor in Nepal now, even apart from, all the other encirclement we've seen?
Absolutely correct. There are two buffer states between India and China. You got Nepal, which is a huge one, and you got Bhutan. And we've seen the Chinese presence in Nepal stepped up over the last few years, concomitant with the inability of the transition, a stable transition from monarchy to democratic and representative government in Nepal, because we've seen that they still are in the process of drawing up their constitution. So we've had a situation where Nepal has been emanating some signals which are not, which in the past have had us concerned, but at the moment we are, I think, comfortable with it. So I won't be surprised if PM's next visit is to Nepal, because both of these are extremely important, because we have cultural, historical links, and they open really towards India. They are not opening towards, because you have the Himalayas separating both these countries from China. And China has become their neighbor only after really taking possession of Tibet. Otherwise, they were neighbors of Tibet. So as such, these two have cultural, historical links to India. They've opened this way. But it is a reality now that in terms of the Chinese presence in Tibet, the economic strength they have, the linkages that they have created on the other side, that you will have this competition, hopefully a healthy competition, in countries like Nepal. And we don't want this to get out of control in a country like Bhutan, very simply. The government will not say that, but very simply we like to retain our advantage in terms of dealing with Bhutan, which we've had traditionally.
Okay, Tshering Tobgay, editor of the Bhutanese, come in at this point. Do you believe that perhaps in the past, India's ties with Bhutan have perhaps been just complicated a little, whether it was, the Prime Minister's, your Prime Minister's meeting with the Chinese Premier, the cutting off of fuel subsidies in the past by the UPA government? Do you see a sense that there is a need to recalibrate the India-Bhutan relationship? And do you think that's happened today?
Well, Ankita, first of all, what I would like to say is that Bhutan, though being a small country, is certainly no banana republic. We've been an independent and sovereign country for hundreds and I would say even thousands of years. And there is a very good reason to this. We've had a very wise society, a very competent leadership in our kings, and our foreign policy and domestic policies are attuned to our national interests. So far as India is concerned, when the birth of India took place in 1947, it was Bhutan, which is one of the first countries, if not the first country, to recognize and congratulate India for its independence. And the relationship between the two countries was established at that very point of time. If you remember, in 1958, Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, India's first Prime Minister, made a very strategic and important visit to Bhutan. And at that time, we had our third king, His Majesty King Jimmy Dorji Wangchuk, who had very important and far-reaching discussions with Pandit Nehru. And the foundations of the Bhutan-India or the India-Bhutan relationship was laid since then. So there may be occasional minor misunderstanding, but I think even today the relationship is very deep, is very strategic. We have common security and strategic concerns.
Right. But
And,
as we're talking about this, we're just seeing
yeah.
the prime ministers of both countries raising a toast to each other. Those live visuals coming in from Thimphu at this point. Sambit Patra, also, if you'd like to join in at this point and reflect on some of the points that were made.
One of the most important issues I think we need to bring in over here, as was rightly pointed out by Pavan Verma also and Mr. Singh, Northeast region and the insurgencies in the Northeast region. I would like to remind you of the fact that in 2003, Bhutan became almost the first country which used its military to flush out powers which were trying to regroup themselves in its soil to work against India. It was, I believe, codenamed as All Clear, Operation All Clear. So I believe a country which is strategically so important, a country which has been so friendly to us, and now also there are certain groups in the Northeast and in particularly in Assam, I believe they may be trying to regroup, and this may be one of the covert issues on which talks may be taking place. So I believe this is also a way of thanksgiving to
the presence
Bhutan.
of the NSA as part of the Prime Minister's delegation as particularly significant, even though
it is customary. I believe
Yes.
whenever the Prime Minister goes to any country, the NSA is always there.
NSA is always part of a delegation.
Yes,
to Bhutan.
it's a customary thing.
should
It's
we not
almost
be reading
present.
any more
No,
into
see,
this?
it is a customary thing that the NSA has to be present when the Prime Minister visits a foreign soil, and they may have number of things in their agenda to discuss. But I believe definitely not. The emphasis on Northeast is a great deal, and as was rightly pointed out by Mr. Singh, we have a strong minister there, and a lot of emphasis has been put to the fact that the Northeast has to be focused.
Very last comments from everybody. KC Singh, the point that's being made, this is the only country to have really flushed out militants at India's behest. Militancy a concern again, the fact that Bhutanese soil could be used by militants, insurgents in the Northeast to target India again, a concern also that might come up in talks?
No, I don't think we've had this problem with Bhutan, because Bhutan wants, their whole approach is to both environment, their internal development is stability, peace. They don't want any instability in Bhutan. So this is not an issue. This is not like an issue that we have with Pakistan, because there is no official support to any
no, we're not talking about official support at all, but even the presence perhaps of militants which have been there in the past, and they were the first to flush out these militants.
I have no doubt at all that I have no doubt at all that is a constant. Right. This is not an issue that we have to negotiate with them. With a country like Bhutan, it's automatic because we have an understanding on that. But if there are any specific issues, they can be. But I think what is important are the larger issues. Continuity in terms of close economic, almost integration between the two economies, interdependence that we have. And secondly, how does Bhutan move forward? When it starts establishing relations with China and so on and so forth, right, in a manner that it does not cause any apprehensions in Delhi. I'm sure they will reassure us, and we will reassure them, and this is what friends do when they meet.
This is what friends do when they meet. India needs its neighborhood to be stable and happy. Will the India-Bhutan friendship model serve perhaps as a positive example to the entire region? Well, we can only wait and watch, but thanks very much indeed, Pavan Verma, KC Singh, Tenzing Lamsang and Sambit Patra for joining us on this discussion tonight.